Summertime is heating up at Global Voice Broadcasting. Hot music, hot talk, and hot topics. All day, every day, 24/7. You don't want to miss a minute on Global Voice Broadcasting.
Hey everybody! Welcome to Into. This is our live interactive talk show about gay issues. I'm your resident psychotherapist, Matt Dempsey.
And I am Jimmy Fowley. I'm a comedian, and we are here every Monday at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time at www.into.show. And you can follow us on social media at Into Talk Show.
That's right. We want it to be totally interactive. So also, please call in with questions that you guys have. So it's 323-522-5482. Again, 323-522-5482. The number should be up on the screen, so please call in because we actually do want to talk to you.
And without further ado, our show today is Work and Passion. Wow, that was really sounded good.
It was like the least passionate way that we could have introduced that topic.
By the way, side note, I actually sang the Star Spangled Banner for myself to see.
When?
Just a few days ago, because I'm not a good singer, but I literally tried to I was like, what if I really try?
Did you kill it?
I'm so much worse than I remember. But that's beside the point. That's just a side.
Well, Jimmy, if singing's not your passion, what would you say is?
Well, obviously my passion is comedy. For those of you guys who've listened to the show, and that's what I love to do. Did you know that you were passionate about therapy early on?
Well, you know what's really interesting is that I knew I've kind of been in and out of therapy throughout different points of my life. My mom's always kind of been a huge proponent of counseling, and so there's been a few times that I've checked in that way, and have really been like a consumer of therapy, and I've always really loved it.
Was your mom, side note, was she involved at all in therapy, or was she
no?
How did she be?
Because she's just somebody who would, is just very open to all kinds of ways of dealing with things, and so she works at a hospital and had kind of like a clinic that was right there and readily available to her too. So she was kind of accessing it for herself, and then also for me and my brother and my sister at like different points throughout our lives too, just as something that could be supportive for us. So I knew that I was connected to it. But it wasn't until like later in life that I realized that it was something that I could actually do like for myself as a therapist, and find out what the path would be for me to be a counselor, and actually really value that as a viable professional option for me.
Did you have a profession that you were kind of on track for before that?
Kind of, actually. I did go to undergrad for psychology, but I didn't think that I wanted to keep going to school. I didn't think that that was the right thing for me. I thought maybe I'd be a therapist later in life. But I actually thought I was going to go the route of the music industry on the business side. And I did like an internship at Columbia Records in their A&R department, scouting talent, and I thought I was going to go that route. And it was actually at a terrible time in the music industry when everything was collapsing and no jobs were available at all, which was a total, saving grace for me, because then there really weren't any job opportunities for me. And probably after a year and a half of busting my ass looking for work in a profession I didn't even really feel that passionately about, I eventually was like, if I would have taken the time and energy and put it towards therapy and have gone back to school, to grad school, so I could have gotten my master's and eventually, go the way of counselor, I would have been close to finishing that. So that's when I had to really take a beat and reconsider.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Do you feel like, this is kind of a cheesy question, but do you feel like you're living your dream in a lot of senses?
Okay, well, I'll up the cheese factor on that, because Oprah says God can dream a bigger dream for you than you can ever for yourself, and I totally believe that, because I thought, and eventually when I reconsidered where I was at and what I was going to do, I thought this would be awesome if I actually go back to school and can sit across from people, every day and talk to people about what's going on and help them out. I was like, that sounds amazing. And I didn't even know private practice was an option for me. And then that became an option. And then I started doing some YouTube videos, and then that kind of broadened the scope of how I could do the work that I love doing. So it's just like things just kept building on top of that. But
there's basically no way for you to realize that all this stuff would happen.
No.
That's really cool.
But what about for you? When you thought, let me go the route of comedy, what did that look like for you initially?
Well, initially I thought I wanted to do just like regular dramatic acting, which I'm terrible at it. Like, if you've ever seen me do, like, during college I did like Shakespeare and like Ibsen and Chekhov, and I'm horrible. But I would just I thought that
Hold up, can you give us like 2 solid lines right now and give us a solid dramatic delivery? Come on. Compose yourself and deliver.
I honestly, I really, I would be totally down to make fun of myself. I can't remember it, but
that's okay.
And all our teachers were like, you need to have a classical monologue ready to go. And it's like, of all my years living in LA, I have never done like anything classical. Like, I think it'd be more beneficial for those teachers to like have you like dance with a Swiffer mop, for like a commercial audition, because it's like.
So when did it turn comedy for you?
My freshman year of college, my friend who was in my acting class, he was on an improv team, and he was like, you should totally do improv. And like, I thought improv was so nerdy. Like, I was like, I think I said to him, like, I don't know, improv is kind of more for like Jewish guys and overweight women. Like, that was my concept of it. And so I ended up auditioning for the troupe, and I loved it, and it was totally like such a good outlet for me.
Yeah.
And it was so fun, and I loved writing material, and so then I started doing that, and then after I graduated, I got involved with the Groundlings and got invited to perform there, and that was like huge because that opened up a lot of opportunities for me. And then I got to like do a couple shows and obviously do my own web show. So it's been so like fun, and in so many ways, like I really was like so afraid that I would never do anything, because you're basically like at a wall. When you get into the industry, like you need to know someone, or you need a connection or something to, like, it feels like you're just pounding the pavement.
Well, and it's difficult, and it's hard to know exactly what you need to do, because it's hard to even see what direction sometimes you can even be heading.
Yeah, because there's so many different ways to go about it.
There's so many different ways. Well, but also just in general, it's so hard sometimes to figure out exactly even what you can be doing for yourself, or what your passion is, or any of that. And it's really interesting because I heard Gloria Steinem speak once and talk about how it's just in our society we're conditioned to believe that we're supposed to know exactly what we want to do professionally and who we want to be with and where we want to live, like all at 18. And then we're just supposed to do that for the whole rest of our lives, and it's this one really restricted, confined thing. And like, that's so unrealistic, but when there's more fluidity and flexibility in terms of how we can just allow ourselves to stumble and fall and figure some shit out along the way. And that just frees us up so much more to see what we might actually really connect to, and also the potential of whatever that is.
Yeah, because it's hard to know how you feel about something until you're actually like doing it,
Totally. And there's a number of things that actually keep us from even feeling capable or warranted to throw shit against the wall to see what's going to stick or not.
Yeah.
But we actually had some really, really great questions that came up today when I was kind of putting the feelers out and seeing what people thought about this particular topic. So we had @Brandon J. Lloyd, who asks, how do you create an authentic passion that drives you forward happily instead of always feeling unfulfilled and striving to reach unrealistic goals that end up just making you feel sad?
What's your take on that one?
Matt, your answer first. So how do you create an authentic passion? That's really hard. I would say I don't know that we create our passion. It's more about how do we actually shuffle ourselves around in our lives in such a way that we can stumble upon it and figure out what that is. And I would say this comes up a lot, actually, for a lot of my clients. It's obviously something that I needed to process a little bit for my own life, too. But it's, how do you know what your passion is? Like, what the hell is that even? People talk about it all the time, and it's that kind of thing where if you don't know what it is, you can kind of feel broken. Like, should I know what that is? Or, and I have no idea. And especially as gay men, when we grow up in a world that has taught us to devalue who we really are authentically, we default to all of these other ways to trying to have a sense about what our worth can be, or how we're going to get other people to value us, or finding ways that we can fit in and belong with other people. So like how maybe attractive we could be, or how we can just have the most successful, highest paying jobs, or the most notable jobs, or hang with the coolest people, or all that kind of stuff. And then it has us lose sight and pulls us away from who we are more authentically. So that in and of itself is such a hurdle for us to, kind of get over, so that we can check in on the things that actually really do resonate with us and bring us joy in life.
Yeah. And like do what you're happy, and not worrying about like what society deems as more valuable. Because it's like,
Totally.
This is like such a weird movie to reference, but In Her Shoes with Cameron Diaz. And do you know that movie, Ryan? In Her Shoes. Maybe that's not what it's called, but like Toni Collette is a lawyer, and she's very successful.
Oh, Cameron Diaz is her sister, right?
Yeah.
I didn't see it, but
and she's like a lawyer, and she is whatever. She makes good money, but she's just miserable. And then one day she's out walking her dog, and someone was like, "Excuse me, like, can I get your number? Because I need a dog walker." And she's like this very successful lawyer, but she kind of like is confused and like says yes, and she ends up walking these dogs, and she's so fucking happy. And then like she loses all this weight, and she actually like quits her job as a lawyer to become a dog walker.
That's awesome.
And like you would think that like that is, oh well, that's not good, because being a lawyer, it's more money, it's more prestigious, and being a dog walker, like technically anyone could do it, but it's like if you're happy.
Yeah.
So all my advice comes from In Her Shoes.
So all you lawyers out there, start walking dogs.
Yikes.
No, but that's actually a really great reference too, because there are so many things within our society that tells us who we should be, or how we should be, or what's more valuable than other things. And it becomes a lot more challenging for us to check in with just what we really care about. And again, going back to, if we're growing up as, sexual minorities in this world, then that's going to be something that will inherently have us believe that there's something wrong with who we really are, and anything that could be authentically resonant with us. So don't worry about that, and focus on all the other like flashy things that you can do to have people care. So being able to, to recognize that, call that out, and just check in with ourselves to see what it is that we really care about. So I would say, just to answer Brandon's question too, I would say it's not something that you're going to create. It's just so much more of a thing that you just have to allow yourself to just go out there and, like I said before, throw shit against the wall to see what sticks, and then follow that, and you'll figure it out. Some things are going to work, some things won't, and that's okay. We had another question at Eric Han Comedy. It's so difficult defining success in some fields because the normal inclination is to use a barometer that involves money and, at least in the entertainment field, fame. What can we do to keep ourselves motivated and focused when the money or recognition doesn't come?
That's a good one.
Especially for you, Jimmy, being in the entertainment industry. So what about that? Especially if you feel like, or are experiencing like the money or the fame not coming at you immediately. How do you stay motivated?
I know it's hard, because sometimes, like, even especially for acting, and when you're not really making money, like that's something that is like it's very confirming or like reaffirming. You're like, okay, I'm getting paid to do this. It's like
I'm validating all the effort that you're putting into it.
Yeah, and also it's just that, like, when people are like, oh, what do you do? And you get to be like, oh, I'm, a comedian, or, that's how I pay my bills. It's very much like, it can be, for me, it was very embarrassing at first when people were like, what do you do? And I'd be like, I do comedy. And they're like, oh, have I seen you in anything? And like, before I had done anything, I'd be like, no, but I do all these shows around town. Like, it's like, it feels like could just be a random person. But
Totally.
What helped me, and actually something I talked about in therapy early on, was realizing that that's the path of every single person you look up to. Like, for me, my idols were like Tina Fey and Kristen Wiig, and people who were really struggling. And so that's kind of like, it comes with the territory. So just reminding yourself that that you can just be really encouraging during those times, and knowing that just kind of comes with it.
Totally, yeah. I think that's great. Just keeping that perspective that everybody had to go through that. So you're no different, And if you're at a point where you're just kind of starting out, be cool with yourself and just give yourself a little bit of breathing room, and also say it confidently, even if you don't feel confident about it. To say, I'm a comedian, or I'm an actor, or I'm a psychotherapist. Even if you're just starting out and figuring things out, still say it confidently anyway, because that's going to be the particular action that will help really reinforce to you over and over again that this is real and this matters and you matter and you're, killing it.
And that's something I struggled with, because I felt like I couldn't be confident about it, because it was like, if I did say it, then it was like a conversation, and people were sometimes like very like when you're not totally have that confidence, sometimes people pick up on it and then they just kind of dismiss you, and it can be really tough.
Well, and that's such a perfect moment too to practice fake it till you make it. Yeah. Right? Like, but and that doesn't mean lie. Don't make anything up. Don't fake that. But speak as if you do feel confidently about it. Say, like, I'm a comedian. These are the things that I have done. These are the things maybe that I want to do, or whatever. And speak about it with that kind of conviction. Yeah. Because again, that's going to be the thing that reminds you that it matters. Yeah. You know what I mean? Totally. But what about it? Okay, so what actually helps you keep moving forward, especially if maybe there are times where, you're not like raking in the dough or have all the celebrity, but what keeps you motivated to keep moving forward? We're actually just kind of talking about this a little bit on our ride over here.
Totally. I mean, well, for me, I think being just inspired and kind of like letting all that, like the stuff like the fame and the money or even any notoriety, I think it's just kind of like the shadow of actually what you're doing, and just really loving, what you're doing no matter what. Like, I've had sketches that I've loved, that I've written that haven't been super popular, and I've also had other stuff like do really well that I was kind of surprised by. Yeah. So I think it's just knowing that like it's really not up to you how big you get. Like, you do what you can do, but you have to like let go of all that and just really enjoy it and do it for you.
That's the biggest part of it too, is really being able to check in with what the intention of it is. And obviously there's going to be a number of reasons why we might be doing what we're doing, but especially when we're putting effort towards a thing that we care about. So therapy and comedy and maybe a joint venture like doing this podcast, being able to do it because you care about it, because it matters to you, so you want to do it because that's just where the juice of life is. And so having that be a really, really conscious intention for why you're doing it. And if that then lends itself to other people noticing it too, and you getting work from it, and we're getting more viewers for the show or whatever it is, that's icing on the cake. But we have to bake the cake ourselves first. Because that is how you invest into self-love. When you're doing things intentionally because it's something that matters to you and there's real authentic meaning to it, that's self-love. And then all the rest of this stuff begins to fall in place.
Yeah, exactly.
And that becomes so much more of an accurate compass for you in terms of how you can lead your life and follow that will continue opening things up. Because otherwise, if you're trying to get other people's attention and validation first, that's going to be so fear-driven, and you're going to be just falling all over the place and not going anywhere you're meant to.
Yeah, I definitely think that can be such a trap. And then also it's like, irrelevant, because you'll have some people, like even when you're auditioning, you'll have some casting directors who love you and always call you in, and other casting directors who like just don't think you're that great. Yeah. And if you have all your self-worth tied up in that, then you'll just be destroyed. It's funny how this career, I think, attracts a lot of people who are very sensitive, but it's actually like it's like show business. It's like pretty hideous, in terms of the reality of it and the rejection. But the other thing I wanted to say is also having, a higher power or something bigger than yourself that you can just kind of turn it over to, because you can get really caught up in like the little minutia, the details. Yeah. For me, like I ended up auditioning for SNL like 2 years ago, which was like my dream to do. Yeah, and to like meet Lorne Michaels and all that stuff. And when that happened, I was like freaking out,
Did you actually meet him?
I met him after the show.
Yeah. Was he cool?
And
I
was like freaked out. I honestly like had a backpack full of my wigs, and I was like, "Hey!" And then I just like turned. But yeah, like it was just, he's so iconic.
Yeah.
And so just to even,
He controls everything.
I mean, he really like has people who he likes can go on to have these like insane careers, but it was just so cool to be up there like with all these, you know, other comedians. But, you know, I ended up not getting it, and to just really be like, okay, that's not my path. And not, because like when you do sketch comedy, SNL is kind of like where most people, I would say, would like grew up watching that show and they want to be on that show. So, but in those moments where it's such high pressure, just to, like, I kept telling myself, like, have fun, just like go up there, have fun and do your thing. And like, I had to tell myself, because my heart was beating so fast for like an hour. Like I was like, I'm gonna pass out, you know, and I finally said, like, Jimmy Fowley, you did not come this far to freak the fuck out. And then I just like pulled it together. And
yeah, but that's also because the fact that you were freaking out, because you're a human being, there's no way around it. You're gonna have that fear come up, but you were able to have a very like conscious conversation with yourself that was able to like essentially rewrite that script where you could self-soothe and say, like, it's cool, like, you're freaking out, of course, but also, like, you're going to be fine because, you know, of everything that you did to get yourself here. Yeah. And have that, too. And you were also talking about having a higher power, so spirituality being a thing, whatever that is, you know, whatever that means for anybody, just knowing that you're, like, one part of maybe, like, a much larger thing, and having a faith that there might be some other things that are happening for some reasons, instead of it just being entirely by your own will.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you can get really wrapped up in yourself.
Definitely.
So that's, like, it's not a good place to be, you know?
Totally. I mean, I remember, so I did Nancy Grace. I was, like a psychological expert on Nancy Grace to talk about whatever criminal stories they were talking about, which was a lot, and also to do it live with Nancy Grace, who just wants to battle you. Yeah. I remember thinking, okay, this doesn't totally feel in my lane. It's not exactly what seems like the perfect fit for me, but you know, I think that there's a way that it can be. And also, I was scared. You know, it's like live national TV, and like Nancy Grace, who's just like a lot. She's a force. And I remember thinking, I was almost moving through, like, I just had to think about, like, okay, Matt, like, check your email and read the stories for the day. Yeah. And now get up and take a shower. You're just literally moving through one step after the next, because it feels so surreal, because there's so much fear that gets attached to it. Yeah, that's such a good point. Because it's just something that you care about so much. And when you start getting to a point where, you know, it's things like that, like meeting Lorne Michaels or being on TV or whatever it is, it just really raises the stakes that much more, and can just feel a lot scarier, but still being able to check the fear and recognize that that's so incredibly normal, but to not have it be a barrier for you to keep moving forward. And even if things don't work out, that it's still one more learning experience, and then on to the next thing.
Yeah, and sometimes you just have to do stuff scared.
Absolutely.
And that's okay.
And sometimes you have to do things and bomb and just be the worst version of whatever it is that you're trying to do, to show you that you can still move forward anyway. You know, that there's actually no real failure, but that anytime you're tripping or falling, it's just the next thing that's going to lead you to where you can go next time.
Was there a time, Matt, where you feel like you bombed, like that you had gotten an opportunity and you just like choked?
Not that I choked. Oh my God, wait, this is so unrelated to the work that I do, but I do remember this was probably 13 or 14 years ago or something. I was going to see Rent in New York, and I was with a guy that I was dating at the time, and for whatever reason they were doing, like, MTV was there doing like a little piece or something, and was trying to get interviews with people, and I like had not done any TV, had never been in front of a camera really in that way.
Did you secretly want to be interviewed?
No, I very openly did not want to be. Like, I didn't want to do it, and they came up and they were just like, hey, can we just get a few words from you? I'm like, I really don't want to do this. I'm telling you, I will not be good. You're making the wrong decision here. And they were like, no, really. And they talked me into it, and I was like, okay, fine. And they asked me whatever question, and I was like, I really like Rent. I like the music. And then they asked me, and they were like, okay. They asked me another question. I was like, I don't know the answer to that. I don't think they used me, but it was so terrible.
Oh my God. If any of our listeners have access to MTV footage, like, I would be so happy to see that clip.
It was a lot of fun, but whatever, you know? You live and you learn. All right. Next question. All right. So at John Jr. wants to know, do you have to find passion in your occupation, or is working simply to pursue your passions a valid lifestyle? If you are working out of necessity and not because you are passionate about your job, how do you avoid burnout? So first question, how do you find passion? Do you find passion in your do you have to find passion in your occupation, or is it cool to just have your occupation be the thing that helps support your passion?
I mean, I think for me, Matt, are you drunk?
I think I might be a little bit.
Matt is wasted over here. For me, I think I need to be passionate. Like, if I did the sales job where I was like the training manager of the software company for 2 years, and I was like totally miserable. And so, like, I just felt like I was like wasting time. Yeah. And it was a good paying job, and it was like very steady and secure. And then I just decided, like, I don't want to do this. I would rather be like the poorest, most failed comedian, because at least I could say like I'm a comedian and not be like, oh, I'm a sales manager, but I'm really funny. You know, like, to me that was like my biggest fear, is being like the funny guy at the office. You know, but I know like my roommate, he just works his job, and his pet peeve is when people are like, what's your passion? Like, he hates it.
Really?
Yeah, he hates talking about it. He gets very uncomfortable. And he just works his job, and he's good at it, and he makes like crazy money. And like, we joke about like he's like that he's depressed, but it makes me sound horrible.
Is he?
No, he's not. He's not.
But like, maybe
but he doesn't know what he wants to do. But
Okay.
definitely, he doesn't feel like he's like at his calling. You know, his life's calling.
Totally, and I think that's probably a little bit of a different thing, because it's one thing to be, you know, doing some work and still also be a little unsure of what your passion is. If you do know what your passion is, and you're able to find some other outlet for that, even if it's not your primary job or your primary source of income, whatever, but you still have other opportunities just to be able to engage that, or maybe those things, maybe it's a few different things, then that's totally okay. I think that's totally fine. I'm actually kind of in the camp with you, Jimmy, of if there's a way that you can actually, and I think most of the time you can, turn that into a viable profession where you're able to make some money, at the very least enough to support you, then do that. And you might have to, for a while, have some other work that can help you transition into that. But really, you know, try to do that if you can, if that's really your goal. If it's not, and there actually are a lot of times that it's just not going to be an option for you, you know, then it's totally fine too to be able to have a job that maybe, you know, enjoy some aspect of it or component of it. You like the people that you work with. Maybe there's some things about it that you can connect to, but enough that at a baseline, it's kind of okay. Then just focus on those things and find the gratitude for what you can out of the job that you do have, and especially at the top of that list being the fact that it helps support the other things that your heart is truly calling out to. Yeah. And then do that too. But I think that's totally fine.
And I also think that there's like a different, like, if you can have a job and you're happy and, you know, happy enough, and you're doing this thing and you're not really sure what your passion is, like, I think that's a little different if you like feel like you have this passion, but you're not sure how it'll, you know, manifest in a job that you'll actually make money. Like, I think I just feel like people, if you love doing something and people say like that 10,000 hour rule, have you heard of that? Like, if you do anything, you to become a master of something, you need to put in 10,000 hours. Okay. And so I think that like you will find a way. You know, it may seem really hard and it might take years and years depending on what it is, but eventually, if you keep pursuing it.
Totally. But it's also such a difficult thing sometimes, because in order to keep pursuing something, it means you have to have some sort of baseline belief in yourself that you will be able to do it, that somehow it will make sense, even if you can't totally put it together in your mind right now, that you will be able to figure out whatever steps you need to take.
Why do you think, Matt, some people are so blocked? Because I think I even have friends who are just like really like struggling, like they're like, they have something they want to do, but then they're afraid. And where do you think it comes from?
So many reasons. I think that depending on the variety of cultural identities that you have, if you're a gay person, if you're female, if you're a person of color, if you're transgender, if you're disabled. I mean, there are so many things that can influence us on a societal level to have us think less positively about ourselves, to have less of a belief in ourselves. Even when we're not entirely conscious of it and aware of it, it still can hold us hostage in that way and not allow us to just open ourselves up and see what we're capable of. So there's that part of it. There's also a lot that has to do with the experiences that we've had within our families and like the earliest relationships that we had growing up at our most formidable point in our lives. That's going to really influence and shape how we see ourselves, or just our overall self-concept and the belief that we can potentially have in ourselves, so that we can put ourselves out there and, try any number of things, including what our passions might be and a profession can be for us. So, there's so many variables that keep us from, feeling more capable.
Totally.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Were you ever afraid that you wouldn't be able to do your career, or not really?
I have to say that I have had an incredibly fortunate experience growing up with a number of really positive influencers in my life, and probably at the top of that list being my mom. My mom was like such a champion of me and my brother and my sister, and basically did everything for us. So
what's
just
her name, Nancy?
No, yes, Nancy Grace is my mom.
No. That's why.
Mama, stop yelling at me on live TV.
For some reason, it was in the back of my head because of Nancy Grace.
No.
What,
My mom,
what is it?
Deb.
Okay,
Debbie.
Deb. Shout out to Deb.
Shout out to Deb. She, really put us kind of at the forefront of her life. Like, we felt that we were priority.
That's so cool.
And just having that experience alone was, one of the most significant influencers that had me just feel so strongly about myself. So that was a part of it.
Parents take a huge play in it.
Absolutely. We've got a call.
Remind me to tell you a story after this about my parents.
Totally. I can't wait to hear it. Hey, caller, are you there?
Hey, hi guys.
Hey,
how are you?
I'm great.
What's your name and where are you calling
Matt,
from?
I think you had a really good point, because I went through the same thing. I had my brothers and my father and my mother, highly educated people, highly successful people, but I always felt like, the odd guy out and I'm gay and the whole bit. But I think what you were saying about stumbling is very important, and I stumbled. And, the pieces finally came together. It was kind of like a runner's high when you just get that breakthrough and you just keep pushing and you found it. And, you were talking about walls, or Jimmy was at least. But I think as long as you realize that your experience is not quite fitting you, it still gives you that drive to push and to find. And I really think that if you still have that fire in you, that you will find something. And another thing I like to add on to that is whether it is just for money, but supplementing passion with satisfaction. I found that in volunteering as well as in my career. So anyway,
That's
and
cool.
I liked your comment, Jimmy, about 10,000 hours. So I'm trying to figure out when my 10,000th hour was.
Yeah. Wait, what's your name? Sorry, I didn't catch your name.
I didn't have a calculator handy, so
tell me your
but
name.
I think it was a really great comment.
Wait, sorry. So what was your name and where are you calling from?
Oh, I've called a few times. Mel from West Hollywood.
Oh, hey, Mel.
Hey, sorry. I know you've called a few times, but I'm not that familiar with your voice.
Yeah.
Mel, that's such a good point.
Yeah, coming from the background that it came from, it was kind of like this. It wasn't a competition, and there was never any pressure put on me, but it was like my own expectation.
What's your background?
I'm sorry, what?
What's your background? You said the background you came from.
Oh, a very Jewish family from New York City.
Oh, I gotcha.
Totally.
Oy vey. Am I right?
Oy vey, it's milk, yeah. So, it was just, I don't know. I mean, I think even though my parents didn't pressure me, I just saw what, I'm like, how do you do that? How do they get there? How do they,
Yep.
And my brothers are younger than me, and they're way more successful than me financially. And I was never jealous, but it was like, well, shit, I better step up to the plate. And it did take me a while to find, what it was that I was passionate about. And I'm so glad I did, because I'm really happy with what I do.
Totally, and I think that's probably one of the biggest points too. And I'm glad that you've called in to just reiterate that, which is just having patience for yourself and allowing yourself the time to figure it out and just to kind of play around to see what it can be. So Mel, I just want to thank you for calling in again. We always love hearing from you.
Thanks, guys. Have a great night.
All right, thanks.
Love listening to you.
Oh, side note, there's
Do we have some comments or questions?
Yeah, there's a question.
Let's hear it. This is coming from Facebook Live.
Yeah.
Who's asking?
Kenny, or should I say, I probably shouldn't say their full last name,
Just say the first one, Kenny.
Kenny, what would you do if you have a young gay friend that was left behind by his family? I've tried getting him jobs, but he's taking advantage of me, and I'm just too nice a guy, I guess. My mom is great. That's kind of a random last sentence on that.
Okay, well...
My mom's great.
Well, okay, that's...
She sounds like a real bitch.
No.
No, I'm just kidding.
Okay, real quick. Caretakers out there, everybody, you cannot save anybody. All you can ever do is offer some support. So you can try to let people know that maybe there are some jobs that you can connect them with, and they're either going to take it or they won't. And if they won't, you just have to let that be, because we can't ever do the work for anybody else. If we're doing that, then we actually start retarding their own ability to grow. I mean that in a literal sense.
That's very off-brand for you to say that kind of slur here.
We really keep other people from being able to move through their own muck and figure out what they're capable of if we keep doing all of that work for them. So all we can do is offer support, but we can't save them. So Kenny, I would just say, I know that your heart's in the right place, and I think that's fantastic. And obviously it sounds like you're a real caretaker and have a lot of love to give. But I would say really try to resist the urge to do that and just allow your friend to try and figure some things out on his own, even if it seems like he's not coming up with some of the best solutions.
Yeah, that's to me like such a red flag, like those people who need that help. And then like it's actually a trigger for me too, where I'm like, oh, I can. And there was like this situation. This is kind of like a really gnarly story. Matt, you're gonna hate me for telling this story, but it's true. There was like this guy in my community, and these two guys were living in a sober living together, and one was like really taking care of him, and like everyone was like, you gotta cut him off. You gotta cut him off. Yeah. And then the guy ended up murdering him. He killed him, and it was just like so shocking. And it like was, no one expected that. Like people were like, oh, don't take care of him because he's like a drag, not like, oh, he's gonna kill you. Right. So I mean, not to like put that out in the universe, like those people that you help are gonna kill you, but like, you know what I'm saying? Like it's just like you just don't.
I don't know if I do, Jimmy.
Okay.
What are you saying? What's the takeaway there?
Well, I guess that's a really weird story for me to tell. But you guys, you'll definitely remember it.
Well, I think maybe the takeaway is that even in the most extreme situations, we don't hold responsibility for what other people do. Okay, there's your bow. All right, I think, believe it or not, we might be wrapping up on this portion.
I guess we just have one person that wants to say hello and get a little career advice.
Oh, wait, let me get my bell.
Wait, am I even in? Oh, so if you guys haven't seen this section of the show, Matt is going to give advice to our puppet, Tristan, and if he becomes too uncomfortable, he will ring the bell, and we'll see how long it
when I feel that we can go no further.
Yeah, okay. Hey, Matt.
Hey, Tristan, how you doing?
Not so good. I'm just feeling really stuck at work.
Ah, stuck how?
Well, you know how I'm a caterer?
I do.
Well, I just feel like I want to get out of it, but I don't know how.
Okay. So tell me more.
Well, I kind of wanted some advice.
Mm-hmm. What kind of advice are you looking for?
Well, it's just like, I have this dream, but it's honestly stupid. I don't even want to tell you because I don't want you to judge me.
Tristan, you know that this is a non-judgmental space, so, as if you feel really comfortable, I'd really like to hear it. I'm really interested, actually, about the dream.
I want to do web design.
That sounds
for
amazing.
a porn company.
That sounds amazing, too.
Oh, I guess you're sex positive, I
Absolutely. What would be wrong with that?
I don't know. When I tell people what I do when, I have a work resume, what are they going to see? A bunch of images of guys, getting cum spilled in their guts?
You're a monster.
I love how, I love when you're just like, tell me more. That's my favorite.
Because I'm really curious to hear more is all. All right. Well, I think we are all out of time for tonight. But everybody, please be sure to check back in next Monday at 8 p.m. Pacific. And we're going to be talking about sex and prep. And fingers crossed, I think we're actually going to get my doctor in here.
Amazing.
And have our first, third-party
That'll be our
interviewee.
first guest.
Who's actually going to be able to help us have that conversation from a professionally, medical point of view. So,
and he's a real babe, so there'll be some eye candy. I actually don't know. I've never seen him. So.
know him. But yeah, so we're really looking forward to that. So be sure to check us out next week.
And you can follow us on social media at Into Talk Show. And you guys definitely hit us up with questions on Twitter, different topics of shows that you guys would want to see. Because we really do this as kind of like a big conversation. We are open to what you guys want to talk about. Open. We're wide open. So you can spill into our guts like Tristan, our puppet.
And on that note, everybody remember that today is a chance to uplift someone else so we can all rise together.
Because if you don't, you're absolute trash. Bye, guys.
Bye.